Folk Studio 451 is proud to present Pioneer History of Orleans County, New York by Arad Thomas, edited and annotated by A. Burris. Introduction. The first European settlements on the Atlantic coast were made by the English and Dutch on the south and by the French on the extreme north. Ascending the great river St. Lawrence, the French founded the cities of Quebec and Montreal. Following the river and the lakes westward, they established the settlements at Pittsburgh and Detroit many years before the English settled western New York. When the French arrived, the Algonquins and Hurons lived in eastern Canada. They formed a strategic partnership with the French, as the Canadian Indians and the Iroquois in western New York were at war. The French sided with their Indian allies in this conflict, which led to deep-rooted hostility from the Iroquois. Many intense battles occurred between the French and these Native Americans with varying levels of success. Eventually, the Algonquins and Hurons were displaced or obliterated, and the Iroquois nearly wiped out the French settlements in Canada. They effectively prevented the French from establishing themselves in New York, even though the French claimed the entire territory. Only a few French missionaries were permitted to stay in Iroquois territory, except at the mouth of the Niagara River, where the French founded a trading post in 1678. The English, led by Sir William Johnson, captured the post in 1759 and held it until it was surrendered to the United States in 1796. Meanwhile, in 1722, the colonial government of New York built a trading house at Oswego, and in 1727, a fort was added to strengthen it. The French objected to this encroachment on the territory they claimed and sent military expeditions multiple times to drive out the English. These English establishments at Oswego were captured by the French in 1756 and destroyed. The English reconstructed them in 1758 and held them until 1796, when they were handed over to the United States under Jay's Treaty. The French maintained communication through Lake Ontario to connect their western settlements with Quebec, but did not establish any other locations within the bounds of New York due to the power of the Iroquois. In 1760, General Amherst led a formidable army consisting of British, Indians, and provincial Americans to Canada. In the end, the French surrendered Canada and all of their western possessions, including their claim to western New York. The Iroquois, also known as the Six Nations, established friendly relations with the English early on. They remained loyal to their alliances even after the French were defeated in America, continuing this loyalty through to the time of the Revolution. At the beginning of the Revolutionary War, American General Philip Schuyler met with the leaders of the Six Nations at German Flats in June 1776 and secured their agreement to remain neutral in the war. But Sir John Johnson, Joseph Brant, Colonel John Butler, and other Tories persuaded the Indians to break their promise and encouraged them to fight alongside the British against the Americans. Throughout the war, all the Indians, except for the Tuscaroras and Oneidas, remained loyal to the British. Many of the Tories came from a British settlement that had been established in the Mohawk Valley by Sir John Johnson and his father, Sir William Johnson, where they had been trading with the Mohawk. In fact, many of the white residents in the Mohawk Valley were Tories, and so they allied themselves with the hostile Indian groups led by Butler, Brant, and others. Together, they launched attacks against the Americans, causing death and destruction in the frontier settlements of the colonies. After their raids, they would retreat to the British strongholds at Niagara and Oswego, where they were safe from retaliation. This predatory warfare continued intermittently from 1775 to 1779, particularly along the Mohawk and Susquehanna rivers. In 1779, American General Sullivan led an army of 5,000 men, sent by General Washington to punish the Indians and Tories of New York for their conduct in the Revolutionary War. He encountered them in force at a fortified camp near Elmira, where they were defeated with great loss. General Sullivan's army pursued the enemy to Canandaigua, and then through their villages in Livingston County, destroying everything belonging to the Indians along their route. Following the Battle of Elmira, only a few Indians were killed. However, the survivors were left feeling scared, weakened, and defeated. Instead of returning to their settlements east of the Genesee River, they resettled near Geneseo, Gardeau, Mount Morris, and other areas in the western part of the state after fleeing from Sullivan's forces. The Oneidas, who did not participate in the war, were able to remain in their homes undisturbed.
Learn more about this series at pioneerhistory.us.